Hello, and welcome to episode 86 of the Hike Like a Woman podcast. I hope you guys have had a wonderful week so far. On this week's episode, I had the opportunity to talk to a woman who, at 76, became the oldest person to complete the Triple Crown. This achievement is held by a select few people, and she happens to be the oldest one, and she's a woman. Talk about kicking some serious butt. Girl power. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's interview with Mary Davison, author of Old Lady on the Trail. Hi, everyone. This is Crystal Osborne here, taking over for Rebecca this week on Hike Like a Woman podcast. Today, we are interviewing a woman who is a Triple Crown hiker. And if you don't know what a Triple Crown hiker is, that is somebody who has completed the 3 longest hiking trails in the United States. The Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail. This woman, not only did she complete all these, but she completed all of them at the age of 76 is when she finally completed them. I would like to introduce to you my very special guest today, Miss Mary Davison. How are you, Mary?
I am just fine.
Now, where are you located at?
I live in Puyallup, Washington State. That's over on the west side down south of Seattle.
Oh, wow. So it's probably it's starting to get a little cool up there at this point, huh?
It is. It's still pretty nice. It's not cold, but it's not warm either. And was pouring rain this morning, but it's lovely sun right now.
Oh, it's beautiful. So, did you grow up in the outdoors? Did you always hike, or is this something that you just kind of picked up?
Well, I've always hiked a little all my life, and my parents and I and my brother would go car camping, and we would travel, and we would just camp. And then, this is kind of the ancient olden days, and you actually could camp lots of places in the United States without being in a special place to camp. So I remember that and certainly was in the out of doors for that. And also when I was a kid, I was a Girl Scout, and that was a very important part of it. When I first went to Girl Scout camp, I absolutely was in love with Girl Scout camp. And, the whole rest of the year was sort of immaterial to me until I could get to Girl Scout camp again for each of those years. And when I was in the senior part of the Girl Scouts, I got to go on a 10-day burro trip as part of that Girl Scout camp. And that is really formative for an awful lot of my enjoyment of going. And I think we were lost about every other day, and it rained or hailed every other day. And it was where I really learned that it really didn't matter. What mattered was whether you were having a good time, and you could have a good time whether the weather was lousy or not.
And you'll probably look back on those memories. You look back now and you just laugh about those times that it was raining and hailing, and it's the experience.
Yes, I mean it was very formative for me, and I had friends who were there, and we had an absolutely wonderful time, and we maintained that friendship afterwards for quite some time. And there's still a person or two from that group that I still know, and that was, the weather doesn't determine your attitude. Your attitude is determined by whether you're having a good time. And there's other ways to have a good time than just in sunshine.
That's awesome. Now, you started doing more long distance hiking when you turned 60, correct?
That is correct.
Now, how did you get the idea to start doing that?
Well, I live in Washington State, and there's many, many beautiful mountains in Washington State, and a few volcanic glaciated peaks, one of which is Mount Rainier, which is the one that is closest to me, and there's a trail around it called the Wonderland Trail. And the year I was 60, I said to my daughter, we should really do that trail, the Wonderland Trail, before I get too old to hike. And I knew nothing about long distance hiking. I didn't know it was a sport or anything. We had old equipment, so our packs were enormously heavy. We took everything, you know. We knew nothing about lightweight stuff, so we took the sun shower and books to read, and it was very hard to get the sites because it's even harder today, but you have to get the right sites to be able to do this legally in a national park. And we ended up taking like 15 days to get around the mountain, and we had a wonderful time. And my daughter and I got through and looked at each other and we said, "Oh, we're done." We were very sad to be done. And that was the start of beginning to do things on more than a weekend hike, more than 2 or 3 days of backpacking. So that was the start of long distance hiking for me.
So I would think that your advice to a new hiker would probably be not to carry so much stuff in the beginning, right?
Yes. I could not be hiking at this age without the invention of lightweight equipment. And so my pack does not resemble that first pack very much at all.
It's a good learning tool, though, to look back and go,
But, way back in those olden days when I grew up, lightweight equipment had not been invented.
Yeah.
So, while I've been alive, that's changed enormously. So, no, I go very lightweight now, or pretty darn lightweight. So my base weight, which is a base weight is your pack without food, water, or fuel. My base weight is only about 13 pounds now, maybe 14.
Wow.
It's really cold.
That's really good.
Well, I don't take a stove anymore, for one thing.
Really?
So there's no fuel to even worry about. And, I've just tried to get as light as I can because that helps me to prolong the time that I can still be doing this. And I love doing this. I finished the Triple Crown the year I turned 76. I'm now 77. And I'm working on the American Discovery Trail now, which goes coast to coast. It's not all a wilderness trail, and I'd like to write my next book about some of that.
Wow.
But it's a totally different kind of trail because it's not all wilderness. And you have to actually ask people for stuff.
Really? Oh, I'm going to have to look into that one. That looks like a lot of fun. I know here in Florida, we have the Florida Trail. And that goes from the Panhandle down. And everybody does that one during the winter here because it's actually like the coldest it gets is like 40.
Right. I know a number of people who have gone down and done the Florida Trail, yes.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you'll have to come down and do that one time. Maybe get a cross on our fingers that you'll come down here. Then I can see you.
Well, I might, but I'm working on the American Discovery Trail, and because I'm a long section, I do 2 long sections a year. I do 2 hikes of somewhere between 300 and 500 miles each.
Wow.
And it'll take me probably at least another 4 years to get the American Discovery Trail done, and I don't know whether that will be possible. But yes, this next year I'm planning to. Well, I have done on that one from the Atlantic to the Mississippi, and about 300 miles in Colorado, and about 140 in Nevada. But this coming year, I hope to do across Iowa, which goes in a zigzag fashion, so that it's like 500 miles, which is kind of ridiculous to get across Iowa, but that's the way the trail goes.
Oh, wow.
And then I will try to go from Redstone, Colorado to at least Moab in Utah. So I've already got planned what I'm going to try to do this year. But
that's awesome.
There's lots and lots of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful trails. They keep inventing new ones. I can't get to them all.
Well, the one thing that I really like about you and your story is that you're you're bringing into light to people who are, for instance, like myself, who I look at like a goal of mine one day when my kids are grown up and they're not infants, because they're infants right now, is to like do the whole Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
And so many people go, okay, I'm going to start it and I'm going to do it all in one fell swoop. And there are people who can, but there are some of us who we just don't think that, we just don't think that we can probably do the whole thing in one fell swoop, whether it be time, financial, whatever. So being a section hiker and doing that, you can still achieve these big milestones like the Triple Crown. You don't have to be a through hiker to do that.
Yes, you can't do it in 3 years, but you can do it. It takes longer. Section hikers also have advantages because you can choose the section that you can choose the time of the year which you would prefer for the particular section you are working on. One, for instance, is that on the Appalachian Trail, there's a section that's called the roller coaster. And most through hikers would hit, at least most northbound through hikers would hit that right in the heat of the summer, and it would be just humid and hot and up and down and up and down and up and down. And I did it in fall. I did it in late fall, and it was absolutely glorious because it wasn't that hot. And yes, it goes up and down and up and down, but all the leaves were turning, and it was just absolutely stunning, just stunning. And yet it's a section that lots of through hikers go through, and they just are kind of glad when they get it done.
Sawyer is the leading expert in water filtration systems. Their line of products are lightweight, reliable, and require no pumping, chemicals, or waiting. Just drink. They have also added a selection of insect repellents, sunscreens, and first aid kits. Check out Sawyer's amazing selection of products at Sawyer.com. That's SAWYER.com. If you haven't been in that area or hiked any part of that trail, how do you go about planning that? Do you read a lot about it and try and learn and, all the different elevations and everything to kind of prepare a little bit better on what to bring and what to not bring and things like that?
Right. I mean, now I've got a lot of experience under my belt. So going across Iowa, I haven't gotten too much in depth yet, but I do know that the American Discovery Trail uses a lot of bicycle trails and rail trails so a lot of it will be not a lot of up and down in that particular state. Colorado high country for the ADT that I just did is just as rugged as the CDT, and some of it is the CDT or the Colorado Trail.
Wow.
But Iowa should be relatively smooth, and I like that kind of hiking too. I enjoy hiking even on level ground. I enjoy hiking even on roads. It's different. Every hike is different, and it has its own unique rewards that come with it. You don't have to always climb a mountain. At this age, I don't cover through hiker kinds of miles in a day, but I probably could cover, on relatively level ground. I shouldn't have too much trouble, theoretically, covering 13 miles or so a day, and so I will kind of block out my trip. I tell people who don't hike, who don't do this kind of thing, well, you're only doing one thing. So you get up in the morning, and you get up early. I don't get up late. And you eat and you pack up and you walk all day. That's what you do. So it's not like you're going on a, 1 hour hike or a 2 hour hike or a 3 hour hike. You're going to walk all day, and you get to see whatever you see, and you stop and eat, and you walk some more, and you look, have to arrange that you have water, and then you find a place to stay. And then you get up in the morning and you do it all over again.
Exactly.
So that is what you do. Many people who are not hikers can't imagine that, because they just think going on a hike is like taking a couple of hours in the afternoon to go on a little hike.
No.
And it's not like going on a hike. It's more like you're going to go live on a trail. And
Yes.
while you're living there, you will be walking.
Very true. You are literally moving everything you own on you every single
Yes.
day to the next place.
And you also learn that you don't have to own very much at a time.
Exactly. Now here's
Yes.
the question for you. So how did the thought of wanting to become a Triple Crown hiker come in? Did you just start on one trail and then just say, oh, I'm just going to do another one and do another one? Or how did that all come to place? Was that like a goal in mind?
Well, my story's slightly unique. At least I haven't heard of anybody who's done it quite this way. When I started, I had no idea of finishing any big, long trail. I had heard that the Pacific Crest Trail went through Washington, and I knew a couple people who were trying to finish all of the part that was in Washington, and I thought, oh, that sounds fun. And that's all I really had in mind when I began. And then my daughter was living in the East, and we decided to do a little bit on the Appalachian Trail because I'd heard of that. And so I kind of started them both almost at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I hiked them at the same time, which is what's a little bit unique, because I'm a section hiker and I do 2 long sections a year. I would do one long section on one trail, one long section on the other. When I began, I had no idea there even was a Triple Crown.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I barely knew there was a Pacific Crest Trail and there was an Appalachian Trail. I'd never heard of the Continental Divide Trail. And I just kind of decided I really liked both of them. They have different flavors. And so I actually did them both at the same time. Most years, I managed to get a long hike in on each trail. Well, to begin with, I was still working, and I only got like 1 week on each trail.
Yeah.
So it just kind of grew, and and then when I retired, I thought, well, it would be a nice retirement goal to finish them both. And then when I finished them both, I did start the Continental Divide Trail and did manage to finish that as well.
I again, I love the fact that, age was not a number to you when it came to this. You wanted to do it, and as long as you could physically do it, you were doing it. And, it really is a true inspiration. It really is.
But I do want to say, age does happen, and you have to, I at least, have had to change how I hiked. I would not be able to do this if I still was carrying the heavy equipment I started with.
Yeah.
I am not someone who's in perfect physical condition. Over the time I have hiked the Triple Crown, I have gotten a knee replacement, 2 shoulder replacements. I have another knee replacement coming up, actually. It's not that I hike it in the same way that young people hike. And that's part of what I want the book I wrote to say is, sometimes you have to change the style and the way you're doing it. I can't compare myself with my expectation that I can do what I could do when I was 60, let alone when I was 20 or 40. That does not mean I cannot be out there doing something. I cannot compare myself to what the young dudes are doing, because I can't do that. But I can see what I am able to do. And, if you keep doing what you are able to do, you can put together a lot of miles. But you do it differently. I do not go at a fast pace. I do not carry a heavy pack load. It's heavy enough. And a lot of that depends on where you are and how much water you have to carry, because that's what adds your weight. I'm not somebody who says that age is just a number. Age makes a difference, but it does not have to be a stop sign. And actually, I wrote the book. People have been saying I should write a book for years, and I never have, and said I was always too busy hiking. Why should I write a book? But the day I finished the Triple Crown, and this is how the book starts, is telling this. I had a spectacular day, just a wonderful day. I mean, it's the end, and it's a wonderful celebration day. And I'm coming southbound into Many Glacier in Glacier National Park. And I had seen 2 grizzly bears, just the perfect way you should ever see them. And as I came closer to Many Glacier, there were many day hikers out, and they talked to me because I'm this little old white-haired lady with a big pack and a grin on my face, and they would say, and I brag about my age everywhere, so I like to brag about my age, and they said, well, if you could do that when you're 76, then maybe we're not done yet. And it was comments like that made me write the book, because just because you're 40 or 50 or 60 does not mean you're done just because you hit those numbers.
Since 1898, Deuter has been paving the way for packs in the outdoor industry, from the creation of the first ventilation pack to packs specifically targeted for women created by women, and even the creation of the outdoor child carrier. Deuter continues to expand in the outdoor community with the invention of packs made specifically for bikers, day hikers, and even children. Check out their newest selection of packs at Deuter.com. That's Deuter, DEUTER.com.
This book, I'm really excited to read it. And I know many of our listeners out there are going to be really excited to read this book, because it's really coming from a place of somebody who, to me, you're like a normal person out there doing this. You're not some crazy athlete. And a lot of times, I like to follow and read books from the crazy athletes. Don't get me wrong. And they're a true inspiration. But sometimes it's so nice to read the experiences of somebody who you can relate with. Someone who, you're like, well, I have this physical limitation or this and that. And it's like, okay, well, this person's out there doing it too. So it makes you realize, like, okay, let's take a step back. And like you said, figure out what's good for you to be able to get on the trail, how you can do it, and, be able to learn from it. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Well, I hope people enjoy reading that. I'm certainly not the only person who's done long distance hiking with much more severe disabilities than me, and there's people who are older than me who are on the trails.
Yes.
Not a whole lot of them, but there are people older than me, and I just happen to be the oldest person who's done the Triple Crown at this time. I have a feeling that in the next couple of years that record will get smashed because there are more and more older people on the trail.
But it's people like you who are inspiring people to keep going. And I think that's such a big deal. Well, let me ask you a couple more questions as we get to the close here. This is a question that Rebecca, our founder, she always asks. And it is, what's one piece of advice you would give to your 12-year-old self if you could go back and talk to your 12-year-old self?
There's actually 2 pieces of advice, and my apologies to those who are not of any kind of religious bent. But I'm a retired pastor too, so you get what I am. And the first one is just to realize how wonderful and how beautiful this creation is that is around us. We have such a gorgeous world we live in, and see it and enjoy it. So that's one. And the other one is more of a religious bent, but it is to realize that you are a child of God, and that God loves you and has given you this creation, and will always love you wherever you are. And that is a deeper peace for not just on trails, but all of your life.
And then a goofy question for you.
Uh-huh.
Something that's not as serious is, what is one thing that you always have in your pack, no matter where you are or what trail you're on?
Well, I learned how to hike old school. So Girl Scouts and then the Tacoma Mountaineers. And safety is always stressed. And more than almost any thru hiker, I think I always have my first aid kit. And more than almost any thru hiker, or any hiker even up here in the summer, is I always have my rain gear.
Yes.
Even if it's not forecast to rain for the next 6 weeks.
It's that one time you don't bring it is the one time it's going to rain on you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I was trained by the Girl Scouts. I was trained by the Mountaineers, and those 10 essentials have changed a little bit over the years, which I find interesting. But there's certain things that you do need to have for safety's sake.
So, let everybody know what's the name of your book and where they can go find it, because everybody needs to be reading this book immediately.
Well, the name you can remember. I tried to choose a name that would describe what the book's about, but would also be, you want a catchy title, or at least one that people can remember. So it's Old Lady on the Trail. And I'm the old lady on the trail. And it is available on Amazon. All you have to do is go to your regular Amazon piece and type in Old Lady on the Trail. And it will come right up. It is available in both Kindle and in paperback. It's pretty easy. Even an old lady like me can find out where it is.
I love it. Well, we are really excited about this. And so far, from what I understand, we should be reading this in our adventure book club very soon. So everybody, please keep an eye out on that. If you are not in our Hike Like a Woman Adventure book club, make sure to check the link in the description below, and that way you can go ahead and join. There will be weekly discussions about it, and hopefully we can get Miss Mary in there to help us out and answering some questions from everybody. I want to thank you today for, being able to come on here and interview with us and tell us about your story. It is so great to be able to talk to someone like you that's still out there and going strong. And I can't wait to hear when you finish the next long section of your amazing adventure.
Yes. Well, people can actually follow along with me.
Where's that at?
For years and years and years, I have always kept a journal on trailjournals.com.
Perfect. So everybody needs to go to trailjournal.com.
And they can type in my trail name, which is Medicare Pastor. And I try very hard to write a journal entry every night. Now, some of those journal entries may end up in a book sometime. But, yes, I'm on Trail Journals. I have websites, so I actually have one now, which is kind of a fledgling little website. But so MaryEDavison.com is a website now.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure to follow along. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Hike Like a Woman podcast. Don't forget to check us out online at www.hikelikeawoman.net. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Looking for a great book? Join our Adventure Book Club, where we read an amazing outdoor book every month and host weekly discussions. Don't forget about our quarterly magazine, with loads of great info from gear to trails and even recipes. Want to go hiking with us? Then check out our local hiking group section on our website to see where the nearest locals group is to you. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful week.